Let's walk through several important legal and investigative concepts you'll need to recognize for the Security Plus exam. These terms commonly appear in questions involving digital investigations, evidence preservation, compliance requirements, and legal proceedings. The key is understanding how evidence is protected, how organizations preserve information, and how legal investigations are handled properly. We'll begin with chain of custody, because this is one of the most important forensic concepts in cybersecurity. If a scenario describes documenting who collected, handled, transferred, or accessed evidence during an investigation, you are dealing with chain of custody. Chain of custody preserves the integrity and admissibility of evidence. For example, imagine investigators seize a company laptop during a cybersecurity breach investigation. Every person who handles the laptop must be documented, including who collected it, when it was transferred, where it was stored, and who accessed it afterward. If the chain of custody is broken or poorly documented, the evidence may no longer be trusted in court. The key phrase is tracking evidence handling. A common exam trap is confusing chain of custody with evidence collection itself. Evidence collection gathers the evidence. Chain of custody documents how the evidence is handled afterward. Now let's transition into legal hold, because this commonly appears during lawsuits and investigations. If the question describes preserving records or preventing data deletion because of anticipated legal action, you are dealing with a legal hold. A legal hold prevents organizations from deleting potentially relevant information. For example, imagine a company becomes involved in a lawsuit related to a data breach. The organization's legal team may issue a legal hold instructing employees not to delete emails, chat messages, log files, documents, or backup data related to the incident. This ensures important evidence remains available during the investigation. The key phrase is preventing deletion because of legal action. A common exam trap is confusing legal holds with backups. Backups support recovery. Legal holds preserve information specifically for legal and investigative purposes. Now let's move into e-discovery, because this is heavily connected to legal holds. If the scenario describes identifying, collecting, and producing electronically stored information for legal proceedings, you are dealing with e-discovery. E-discovery stands for electronic discovery. For example, during a lawsuit, attorneys may request employee emails, server logs, internal documents, security reports, or communication records as evidence. The organization must locate and provide the relevant electronic data. This process is e-discovery. The key phrase is collecting electronic evidence for legal proceedings. A common exam trap is assuming e-discovery only involves email. E-discovery may involve many forms of electronically stored information. Now let's transition into non-repudiation, because this is another important legal and forensic concept. If the question describes proving that a person performed an action or preventing individuals from denying their actions later, you are dealing with non-repudiation. Non-repudiation helps establish accountability. For example, imagine a company executive digitally signs an approved financial contract using their private key. Later, the executive cannot reasonably deny approving the document because the digital signature helps prove authenticity and identity. Digital signatures are one of the most common technologies supporting non-repudiation. The key phrase is cannot deny performing the action. A common exam trap is confusing non-repudiation with authentication. Authentication verifies identity initially. Non-repudiation helps prove actions occurred afterward. Now let's move into data retention, because organizations often face legal and regulatory requirements regarding stored information. If a scenario describes policies defining how long organizations must keep data before deletion or archival, you are dealing with data retention. Data retention policies help organizations manage legal requirements, storage needs, compliance obligations, and investigative readiness. For example, a healthcare organization may be legally required to retain certain patient records for multiple years. Financial institutions may also retain transaction records for regulatory purposes. The key phrase is, how long data must be preserved. A common exam trap is assuming organizations should keep all data forever. Excessive retention may increase storage costs, legal exposure, and security risks. Now let's connect these concepts together using a real-world investigation example. Imagine a company experiences a major insider data theft incident. Investigators collect employee laptops and document every transfer using chain of custody procedures. The legal department issues a legal hold preventing employees from deleting emails or communication records. The organization then performs e-discovery to collect relevant electronic evidence for the investigation and possible court proceedings. Digital signatures help establish non-repudiation by proving which employees approved sensitive transactions. And data retention policies determine which records were still available for investigators to examine. Each concept supports a different part of the legal and investigative process. Now let's bring everything together using recognition patterns. If the question describes documenting evidence handling, think chain of custody. If it involves preserving information because of legal action, think legal hold. If electronic records are collected for lawsuits or investigations, think e-discovery. If individuals cannot deny their actions later, think non-repudiation. And if policies define how long information must be stored, think data retention. The most important takeaway is understanding how organizations preserve trust, accountability, and evidence during investigations. Chain of custody protects evidence integrity. Legal holds preserve important information. E-discovery gathers electronic records. Non-repudiation establishes accountability. And data retention defines preservation requirements. If you can recognize those distinctions and connect them to real-world investigations, lawsuits, and compliance environments, you'll be able to eliminate incorrect answers quickly and confidently identify the correct concept on the exam.